Hase Sagara, Jintaro Nakayama, Harry Nakagawa, Hajime Nakai, Jack Kaoru Arima, George Satoru Miyaki, Ura Toyoshima, Masao Tsuji, Yoshito Tanaka, Minoru Koga, Yoshiko Mary Matsuyama, Mary Yukie Hiranaka, Chie Onchi, Shizumi Fujimura, Akiko Shimatsu, Masao Tom Sutao, Sunao Iwai, Asako Shimomura, Sachiko Nakayama, Takio Hank Nishimoto, Yoshi Porky Nishimoto, Shizuko Higuchi, Masami Ida, George S. Ikuta, Doreen Nakayama, Catherine Dodobara, Dwayne Hamamura, Frank Okimoto, Roy Hajime Taketa, Hiroshi Takashima, George Tsunoru Komoto, Willard Creighton Farrell, Frank Tokyo Komoto.
Gagon Chosegan Ishir Mujodo Shigan Humanzok Se Pujo Shogak Gao Muryoko Uidai Seishu Usai Shobingu Se Pujo Shogak Gashi Jobundo Myosho Chojirpo Kukyo Mishomon Se Pujo Shogak Ryokujin Shonen Joeshu Bongyo Shigu Mujodo Ishoten Ninshi Jinriki Endaiko Fusho Musaido Shoujo Samkumyo Kosai Shuyakunan Kaihichi Egen Meshi Komuan Eisokusho Hakudo Tsudaten Zen Shumon Koso Jomanzok Yo Ioro Jirpo Nichigaten Shujuki Tenko Ompugen Ishu kai hozo kosei kudoku ho jodai shuchu seppo shishiku kuyo isai buden gusoku shutoku hon Ganne shittenjo man tokui sangayo nyobuten mugechi tudaten mi husho gangaku erik toshi sai shoson Shiganya koka daisen no kando kokusho tenin to uchi myoke Namandambu 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 Ganishikudoku Byodo Seisai Dohoten Bodaishin Ojo Namo Amida, Namanda, 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 Namanda.
The Golden Chain. I am a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say pure and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandam, namandam, namandam.
Good morning. Welcome to our virtual service, and thank you for joining us. Please join me in Gasho for a reading from the collected works of Shinran. Amida Buddha, in the causal stage, make the universal vow. When beings hear my name and think on me, I will come to welcome each of them, not discriminating at all between the poor and the rich and the well-born, not discriminating between the inferior and the highly gifted, not choosing the learned and those upholding pure precepts, not rejecting those who break precepts and whose evil karma is profound. When beings just turn about at heart and often say the Nimbutsu, it is if bits of rubble are turned into gold. This is called birth through the Nimbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Today we dedicate our service to those who have gone before us to the pure land of perfect peace during the months during this month and years gone by. We remember our friends, family, and our Dharma ancestors with warmth and happiness. And by keeping those memories of our loved ones alive, we can conceivably better understand ourselves. A couple of days after Christmas, I turned on the TV and was shocked to see an incident that occurred on a passenger plane bound for Tampa, Florida. I believe that's where it was headed. A woman who was not wearing a face mask was lecturing an elderly man about not wearing his mask. The man said he was eating and he didn't want to wear the mask while he was eating. So the altercation went back and forth, and finally ended with the woman smacking the old guy across the face. Not a very nice thing to do. But this is just one example of the divisive nature of the times that we're living in and the prevailing tendency to separate and treat people differently based on race and other aspects of their identity. Since COVID reared its ugly head, there are many, many more of these instances that have took place all over the country. Folks seem to be more and more divided, or as the old saying goes, divided on everything from soup to nuts. The isolation that we are in and have been in maybe is causing individuals to not be able to appreciate their connections with others. And when this happens, it gives rise to a sense of isolation and mistrust and hostility or apathy. It leads to a society based on our fragile human relationships. And I think this may foster symptoms of what Buddhism regards as the human tendency to create division and fractures based on superficial distinctions, to see things in even more of a dualistic way than we normally look at them. If we begin to feel as though we're not connected and we're isolated from each other, then we may not care what happens to other people. So here's a little story about interconnectedness from a mouse's perspective. One day, actually it was around December 17th, I think at 2:51 p.m. this happened. A mouse looked through the crack in an open wall to see the farmer and his wife open a package. And he wondered what food might this package contain. But he was devastated when the package finally opened and he discovered that there was a mousetrap inside. So he ran out to the farmyard and the mouse proclaimed this warning: "There is a mousetrap in the house. There is a mousetrap in the house." The old chicken just clucked and scratched, and she raised her head and said, "Mr. Mouse, I can tell you this. I have grave concern for you, but it is of no consequence to me. I just can't be bothered by it." So the mouse turned to the pig and told him, "There's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house." But the pig sympathized and he said, "I'm so very sorry, Mr. Mouse, but there's nothing that I can do." So the mouse then turned to the cow and said, "There's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house." The cow said, "Well, Mr. Mouse, I'm sorry, but it's no skin off my nose." So the mouse returned to the house. His head was down and dejected, and he had to face that farmer's mousetrap all alone. But that very night, a sound was heard throughout the house, the sound of a mousetrap catching its prey. The farmer's wife rushed in to see what was caught. In the darkness, she didn't see it. It was a poisonous snake whose tail was caught in the trap. The snake bit the farmer's wife. The farmer rushed her to the hospital, but when she returned home, she still had a fever. Now, everyone knows that the way to treat a fever is with fresh chicken soup. So the farmer took his hatchet to the farmyard and retrieved the soup's main ingredient. But his wife's sickness just continued. So friends and neighbors came to sit with her around the clock. To feed them, the farmer butchered the pig. But even with all that, the farmer's wife did not get well, and she finally died. So many people came for her funeral that the farmer had the cow slaughtered to provide the meat for all of them for that funeral luncheon. And the mouse looked upon all of this from his crack in the wall with a great deal of sadness in his heart. So next time we hear someone is facing a problem and we think it doesn't concern us, it might be good to remember when one of us is threatened, we are all at risk. We are all involved in this journey through life. We must keep an eye on each other and make an extra effort to encourage one another to do the right thing. Each of us is a vital thread in another person's tapestry. Our lives are woven together for a reason. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, there's a metaphor used to illustrate the concept of emptiness, dependent origination, and interpenetration in Buddhist philosophy. It's called Indra's net, and it is infinitely large net of cords owned by Indra, the Vedic god. In this metaphor, Indra's net has a multifaceted jewel at each eye of the net, and each jewel is reflected in all of the other jewels, creating this infinite reflecting process. The fundamental Buddhist concept of dependent origination teaches that at the most profound level, all life is connected, that nothing exists in isolation. But simply put, it means that the real nature of individuals or events can only be correctly understood in the context of their connections with others. Therefore, it can be said that I owe my existence to your existence. I could not be here without your existence. And furthermore, it tells us that my happiness depends upon your happiness and vice versa, because we are interconnected. Buddhism teaches us that I can never become happy by just taking care of myself, or conversely by hurting you. And Buddhism rejects racism and any form of criticizing or degrading others based on race, ethnicity, gender, skin color, sexual preferences, etc. But in our tradition, Jodo Shinshu, that which is fundamental is Amida Buddha's primal vow to embrace all beings without discrimination, to leave no one behind on the path to the Pure Land and to enlightenment. We as Jodo Shinshu followers entrust to the other power of Amida, abandoning all need to rely on self-power. Placing our hands together in Gasho, Jodo Shinshu followers recite the Nimbutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, meaning I take refuge in Amida Buddha. Hands together symbolizes oneness, humility, and gratitude. By reciting the Nimbutsu is not a practice for gaining virtue, but it is instead an affirmation of gratitude and a universal echo of the call that originated with Amida's primal vow. So to close my talk today, please join me again in Gasho for the readings from the collected works of Shinran. Amida Buddha in the causal stage made the universal vow. When beings hear my name and think on me, I will come to welcome them, not discriminating at all between the poor and the rich and well-born, not discriminating between inferior and highly gifted, not choosing the learned and those who uphold pure precepts, not rejecting those who break precepts and whose evil karma is profound. When beings just turn about at heart and often say the Nimbutsu, it is as bits of rubble are turned to gold. This is called birth in the Nimbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, Namanda. Again, thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.